Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FirstCall Facility Focus Forum podcast. I'm your host, Rob Vaughan, here with a great guest today, Sofia Russey, our integration guru. Sophia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we appreciate having you. It's our goal to talk about a variety of topics in the HVAC and facilities world and really bring a lot of diversified content. And you have a really special role that I think is really integral with everything going on in the facility management world and really all over the world right now. But tell us a little bit about your title and what you do.
Well, integral, that's a good choice of words there. So my role is I'm the organizational change manager, which is a very broad title, but the number one thing that I do is run the integrations for our new partners. So that means, once we've brought a new company into the FirstCall family, into the FirstCall network, my job is to guide them through the transition that turns them into a FirstCall company and lets them operate in sync with our whole network.
Outstanding. A large array of responsibilities. And, what are some of the key things you do with this unique title and role to make all that magic happen?
So I think there's two sides of it. One side is I work with our central support team, which includes HR, finance, safety, insurance, kind of all that back office stuff. We have a lot of teams that manage that. So I quarterback across those teams to make sure that we have a project plan that works for every department and that none of the teams are working in silos. And on the other side of that, I am acting as kind of a Sherpa to our new partners, guiding them through the integration process, making sure that, what will amount to be probably one of the biggest changes in their professional career is as smooth of an experience as possible.
Well, you hit on that word smooth. Now more than ever, we're seeing acquisitions taking place, all over our facility management world and of course other industries as well. And, it's so key in what's going on right now. But what do you find so fundamental to make integration successful, comfortable and strategically smooth for all parties involved? Because it's a lot.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that I've had to learn how to do and that I'm continuing to learn how to do is build trust quickly, because it's, we're coming in there and there are some things that as soon as that partnership begins, we have to get working on. And you're simultaneously trying to get to know these people, build trust with them. And it's a skill set I'm still developing. I think the number one thing that I've learned in order to do that is to talk less and listen more. I used to think I had to come into every project with all the answers, and I've come to find out that my answers are usually wrong, and it's better for me to just listen and try to work with the information I get.
We said this at our last pod. I'm going to say it again. One of my favorite quotes is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so.
Amen to that.
And, it's true in sales and marketing and relationship building as well. Yeah, the listening element, you're getting so many pieces of feedback. It's so integral. I'm glad you said that. Moving along on a consistent basis, you have the really dynamic responsibility of working with dozens of people you've never met before. And as I was prepping for this, I really thought about that. How many people in their job on a consistent basis, you might have a meeting with a new prospect or, work with people at a trade show for the first time. But on a daily basis with your job, you're working with dozens of people you've never had a relationship with before. I think that's incredibly unique. What have you learned from this, personally? And what advice would you give people, going through the integration process, not just in our industry, but any industry?
Yeah. I think it's probably a bit of a repeat what I just said about learning to build trust first and foremost and to listen. And I think that a really big part of that's going to tie into the advice piece is being really honest as well. I think I used to come in and say, this is all going to be really easy and this is all going to be great. And that's certainly the goal. And we certainly don't go into the integration process planning for anything to be really difficult, but change is change. And doing anything new for the first time is you're firing a muscle in a way that it's not used to, and that can be challenging. So I've learned from my end to be upfront. Hey, these are areas where I have seen it be a bit of a tougher transition, and this is what we're going to try and do to make it easier. So the advice that I would give to answer part two is, as a new partner, I think the most valuable thing is to be honest and spend some time, before the integration starts, um, thinking about who you are, how you deal with change, how your team deals with change, and what you need. And just come into it being really honest about that, because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, right? Let's have a successful integration that allows us to hit the ground running with this partnership and realize the value of this partnership as quickly as possible. And, the sooner we can just get down to brass tacks, build that trust, and do what's going to work for the team, the better an experience is going to be for everybody.
Well, and you're really good at it, so don't cut yourself short, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And First Call had a philosophy of no pain, and I feel like change can be very positive. I love that simple expression. I had never really heard that before in a business sense, but change can be a really good thing, and it's also your job to highlight people's strengths, and that kind of leads me to my next question. In working with so many different people, and doing different integrations, if you had any specific like aha moments where you were really impressed with a company's, processes, their procedures, their way of doing everything, because when you work with lots of different people, you're exposed to, different styles, communication styles, procedures, office setups. Were there any aha moments that really caught you? Like, wow, that I like the way they do that.
Yeah. I'll call out to one. I'll shout out CLS.
Oh,
Which
come on. This was not staged.
this was not planned. I'm not getting paid for this shout out. I'll shout your team out. I think a couple of things that really stood out about the CLS team is, one, the on kind of the tactical side, the clarity of process, and just meeting the team, and everybody was so clear about, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I contribute to the mission of our business. And it was really special to come into an office where everyone was so clear on that. And on the other side, just the relationships. And I think every single time we partner with a new team, you come in and you see a new company culture, and you see a new way of the team interacting with each other, and dynamics between different departments and individuals and leadership. And I really enjoy the culture at CLS, and you guys coming in and immediately inviting us to Super Monday and your Kentucky Derby Day, which I'm very excited for. So that I'll shout you guys out. And I think another team that we partnered with in the last year is LC Anderson up in Boston. They run their business on the EOS system, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is really focused on empowering every employee to have that owner mindset. And it's really focused on kind of cutting the fat in meetings and in process, and really letting everyone leave each day feeling like, wow, I accomplished something and I solved a lot of problems. So going into that partnership and learning about that from their team, I was able to take so many learnings into how I operate and how I run meetings. So it's great, and I think that kind of highlights that in my position, I get to learn as much from our partners, if not more, than what we're bringing to them with the integration process.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the EOS with the LC Anderson team. I was blown away with that, and as the lifelong dork and learner, I really kind of want to take a college course on it or learn
me
it.
too.
It's fascinating, and all those examples you brought up, they're about defining roles and people understanding their lane, but working together as a team and really fostering a lot of accountability, I think. And one of the things that I find most fascinating in integration is there's probably a more professional business term, but it's idea stealing. And when you have these acquisitions, you take, the EOS system from LC Anderson and maybe the processes or lanes and roles of the CLS personnel, in addition to, a couple dozen other partners, and you're really I think you become a more well-oiled machine when you utilize the best practices of all those partners, and you're the first ones that gets to see all of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
lucky you.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's kind of the beauty of what we're building, right? It's the sum of, what is it? Our whole is greater than the sum of our parts.
yeah, absolutely. Well, very well said.
Yeah.
Um, in all your experiences in this unique role, what do you enjoy most about your job?
People. It's, kind of like we've been talking about this whole time. I'm getting to build new relationships with people all the time. And I think, kind of on a personal note, I try to guide my life by my Christian faith, and that's all about loving people. And I feel so blessed that I get to have a job where that's really my role. And I think that if I were to kind of boil it down to one mission, it would be, you know, loving these people by helping them get through a transition that, they're doing for the first time, that may be scary, that may feel uncertain, helping these people build new relationships and again, realize what their vision has been for their business through our partnership. So, I think that's been my favorite part of my job, is to really get to live out what I see as core to who I am.
Amen. I absolutely love that answer. It harkens back. I got to work with a great leadership trainer many years ago, and he told me, you can teach sales skill sets and leadership skill sets and organizational skills and management, but you can't teach empathy. And empathy is an innate trait. It sounds like that's really important to you, and being able to, let your faith guide you and relate to other people, and
Yeah.
it doesn't cost anything to be kind, right?
Right.
I
Amen.
love that. Well, listen, this is a fascinating topic, and we might have to have a part two, because I find integration to be so important in what's going on in the world in general and in
Yeah.
our industry, as companies are partnering together to, to create, a greater business sense and a greater offering for clients. But, you know, I want to end with something kind of fun here. This is very important to a lot of people in the sports world, and probably our first call branches in Columbus, Ohio, too, and the
Oh
Texas branches.
gosh.
But as a proud, Texas alumnus, which I know you are, I want to know, will Texas bounce back and whoop Ohio State next season when the game is in Austin after that tragedy that happened earlier this year?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Confident?
That's why there's always next year, right? Because next year we're
Ar
gonna whoop them.
Arch is coming back, and he's gonna take him to
Arch just
school.
coming back. Yeah, he's
Do you want
he's
to
ready. I can feel it.
do you want to predict the final score? We'll keep this recorded. It's okay. We're putting you on the
I'm gonna
spot
I'm
here.
gonna give Ohio State a little credit. I'm gonna go 49-41.
Oh, barn burner.
Texas is gonna
Wow.
win.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
look forward to it, much to the dismay of our friends in Ohio, and much to the delight of our friends in Texas and all the college football fans. There you have it. Texas will bounce back, and I'm sure that will be their win that guides them to a national championship. So
I
you're
sure
here to
do
hear
hope so.
first. We don't just cover facilities; we cover, sports advice too. So thank you,
I'm
Sophia.
sure people who heard that score were like, this girl knows nothing about football. And that's
Yeah,
also true. But I love the Longhorns, so who
Texas
cares?
minus 7.5. We got it.
Amen.
Well,
Hook 'em horns.
hey, thank you so much. You are awesome at what you do, and we love your energy, and we could never do what we do without you with the First Call team. So appreciate you joining us. And for those listening, stay tuned. We'll have more facilities content coming up very soon, and we appreciate your listenership. Take care, Sophia. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Rob.